Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of The Buzz. This is Todd Jadin. Man, I tell you, the last couple of times I've introduced myself, I've tripped all over.
You're getting better and better.
Yeah, thank you. This is my co-host, Kelly Polk. And this week, our guest is Rob Reich. So we've talked through the last few episodes about a number of maintenance-related items. So we've talked about ATS. We've talked about fuel sensors. We've talked about our cab heaters. So we thought it would make sense to invite Rob to kind of give us an overview of just about anything and everything that's going on in maintenance, and so that's why Rob's with us today. So we're going to let you kind of start, give a quick summary, and then we've got some questions that we'll fire at you and see if you're as good as I hear you are, even though I know you're darn good. Rob and I have been doing this for a long time together.
Yes, we have. 21 years, actually. Well, thanks, Todd. Thanks, Kelly. Good to be here. A couple of key things I wanted to talk about it, to Todd's point on just in general, what are we working on in maintenance beyond some of the real specific technical things that you talked about. I'd say we have two predominant focus areas that really is kind of our mission to the organization, and that's provide available, high-quality, safe equipment, and to do it at a reasonable cost. And so everything we do is about those two things, and particularly the equipment availability. We know, of course, this time of year, nice surge season, we want to make sure every truck and every trailer is available to both our drivers and our customers. And so from an equipment availability standpoint, really our journey there the last couple of years has been all about what we call lean, and lean very common in manufacturing, common in other organizations. And really, lean is all about just being extremely efficient and eliminating waste. And the predominant waste that we're working on eliminating is time. So we know that, especially with new regulations and everything else that's out there, we want to provide every minute back to our drivers that we can. And so that means taking a look at the entire maintenance process. Part of that is the actual repair process itself. And so we do work throughout the year to assess our repair processes. How do you fix an air conditioning system? How do you fix a heating system? We got a team of engineers and technical support folks that are always doing that. So it's great if we can take an 8-hour repair and make it 6. We know we're going to get the truck back 2 hours sooner. But what we don't want to lose sight of is the time around the repair. And sometimes that's the longest part of the process, actually, is how long does the driver have to wait to get into the shop or to get helped by an over-the-road vendor? And then even how long does it take to wrap it up and get the truck back to the driver once we're done repairing it? And that's where a lot of our lean initiatives have focused, just to make the shop more efficient so that the decisions on the front end, the time on the front end, the repair process, and the back end of the process are all shrunk. And so we measure that. So we measure shop cycle time for every shop so we know how well we're doing. We also measure that for all of our primary over-the-road vendors. And so we don't want to forget the fact that you might be down a lot longer with an over-the-road vendor than you are in the company shop. So let me give you guys a couple examples of some of the things we've done to try and take that time out. Our express bay, we've redesigned our express bays so that for our guys that have smaller repairs, they should be able to get through that express bay even faster than they've done in the past. And that goes from the service advisor desk to deciding what do we send to the express bay. So we have a new triage process, for example, where how we assess what's wrong with the truck we've modified to try and capture more of the quick repairs. We know the worst thing we can do is assume something's a 6-hour repair, make it wait for 6 hours to get in the shop, then we get it in the shop, it was a 1-hour repair. So we have triage specialists and the service advisors at the main shops that do that assessment on the front end to make a better decision and then get it to the right place so we can turn it quicker. We've also, drivers should be familiar, we've done this for several years, our HVAC bays. And so we have dedicated bays, for example, to do that work. That's another lean example. And then we've just reorganized a lot of the shops from a tooling and parts standpoint. So our mechanics have to walk less, they have to look for stuff less, because it's the setup, right? It's making sure you have the right parts before you do the work and all those things that we know can save multiple hours through the work. So that's a lot of what we've done around equipment availability. Big measure for us, our key metric we look at every day that my team manages and we meet on is how many trucks do we have that have been down for greater than 24 hours. Now we know that's already too long, but we want to draw the line there. What we're going to do next year, that meeting is going to become about trucks down for 12.
Good.
So we want to take it up to the next notch and figure out how to shrink that even further.
You know, you hit a topic that is really an issue for drivers is if I've waited 6 and I find out I've got that 1 hour repair, it really is one of those.
It's frustrating.
Man, I tell you, you didn't know that kind of on the front end. And so fast forward, if I'm a 24-hour truck and I hear I've got this 1 hour issue, you know, we really do have a disconnect with the driver group. And so getting after that, absolutely great news.
I actually see a slight modification to our over-the-road strategy. Is one, you know, we're a much newer fleet, so that's a good thing. So we want to make sure we're taking advantage of warranty vendors. And so that's usually Freightliner dealerships, Detroit distributorships, folks like that. TA can offer warranty services. Most others can't. But also from a diagnostic capability, today you've got to have the right laptop and the right diagnostic software in order to do the work right. And so some of the vendors that we've used historically that were independent, back in the mechanical days, they were fantastic. They knew exactly what they needed to do. Today, they don't have the training, but more importantly, they don't even have the diagnostic software in order to do the work. So for some of our drivers that maybe rely more on a non-Schneider vendor because of where they work, you might see a shift in where we're sending you, and that shift is because of the newer fleet, but it's more importantly because of the capability of that repair facility. And many of our classic repair facilities that we really like, by the way, they do good work.
Sure.
They simply can't do the new work because they don't have the software and the training to do it. It's a story I love to share is, you know, if I asked you if the dome light was out in a truck, what's the first thing you think you'd do?
Open the door.
You'd open the door, sure. And what would you do next?
Check the bulb.
No, you'd hook your laptop in to run your diagnostic software before you even check the bulb, right?
Yeah.
That's what you do for the 1976 model.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, and so that's the world our mechanics operate in today. Is the most important tool in the shop is the laptop.
Yeah.
And so the more we can get the driver's help to diagnose those things, the better service we'll be able to provide. And back to our comment around turning a truck quicker, we'll definitely be able to find the problem quicker and get it back to the driver.
What, because it's that time of year, mid-December, and so any hints to folks as it relates to the cold weather and Schneider emergency maintenance? We're getting into the time of the year where the calls spike into that area of the company. So just any tidbits you can offer there.
Sure, yeah. One thing, and we've been checking them at PM time, but I'd ask everybody to make sure that their bunk heater's working. And so particularly if you're in the south where you don't use it often, you want to make sure before you need to use it that it's using it. With those things, if you don't use them for months at a time, they can be a little tricky the first time you try and fire them up. So we want everybody to make sure their bunk heater's working.
So Kelly, that would be your official reminder, I think, number 4.
We've been talking about this a lot.
And I've heard you got to repeat yourself 7 times for it to sink in. So we done 4 official. Check your cab heater, check your cab heater, check your cab heater.
Yep.
7 times.
We're good to go. So that'd probably be my first tip, because we don't want those to fail, obviously, if you're in the wrong spot. Really, I think, you know, doing a good pre-trip, making sure that we've gotten everything taken care of when we can ahead of time, checking your tires. Tires actually wear more slowly this time of year, but that doesn't mean they can't give you a problem. So we want folks checking their tires. You want to make sure you're checking your brakes. We've had some brake freezes, obviously, with the really quick drop in temperature that's been happening. And you know, that if you haven't noticed that and you go to take off, obviously that's going to give you a hard time. So you know, it's just the basics. Just always doing the basics right.
Drain that fuel water separator.
Yep, all those things.
Yep.
Now, you know, calling SEM, what you can expect is we staff for the winter, so we know the cold weather's coming, and we try and plan accordingly, because you know we're looking at the forecast, particularly over every weekend when we know people are either coming in or going back out. Our busiest call times are when you think they'd be. They're first thing in the morning, when a lot of people are getting up and discovering they have a problem. So what we have put in place is, if our hold time gets too high, then we use some other vendors to take that initial call. So our goal is to make sure that that first call, you don't have to stay on hold for very long. So for example, we had bad weather this weekend. We flipped some calls to a couple vendors and to try and alleviate just the hold time on the front end. So at least we can grab your problem and start working your solution.
Right.
So I came in yesterday afternoon, hold time was 3 minutes during a bad storm. Not bad. You know, that's really what we're shooting for, is never more than 10. Now, it's those 6 to 8 a.m. is when we'll typically get the busiest. And again, we're looking, if we're getting close to that 10-minute hold time, we're going to start using some other vendors to take those calls so that we can serve the drivers faster. At that point, then, it gets, after we take that initial call and a service writer captures the call, we're handing it over to one of our technicians who's going to work that solution and then get back to the driver once that solution has been figured out. The biggest challenge we'll have in the winter, and you know, it's really about thinking about where you're parking. Obviously, always safe driving, but the tow trucks get really busy, and so we'll have issues if you're in a heavy storm, particularly if they're closing roads. The police will then dictate actually where they'll let the tow trucks go, and so that's probably the biggest challenge: is know where you're at and know your surroundings as you plan your day, so we can hopefully avoid having to call that tow truck at all.
Well, Rob, we appreciate you coming in. You know, some of the folks in your organization has helped us kind of do the buzz over the last several weeks and months, and Todd often reminds the group that they are the smartest people we've met, and you lead that group. So thank you.
It's a pleasure to do so.
Yeah, we always feel smarter after our maintenance folks leave the room. So we appreciate the support that you and your team provide to the organization.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming and visiting with us. Anything else this week, Kel?
I'm out of bullets.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Drive safe.
See you next time.